Welcome back to Under Baobab Skies. Tonight, we journey into the wide-open plains of East Africa, where red earth meets endless horizons and the air carries the faint sound of cattle bells mixed with the distant roar of lions. Here, in the land of the Maasai, childhood was never truly a childhood. It was a training ground, a test of endurance, and a passage into responsibilities most of us could hardly imagine. The Maasai are known worldwide for their tall, graceful presence, their red shuka cloths, and their fearsome reputation as warriors. But beneath the glory and the admiration lies another story, the struggle of youth shaped under harsh skies. To survive as a Maasai herdsboy was to live always between beauty and burden. And tonight we'll walk slowly into that life, step by step. We LLC the dawns where cattle were counted before boys even rubbed the sleep from their eyes, and the nights where fear of predators kept eyelids half open until sunrise. We'll explore the legend of leaders who guided their people with wisdom and mystery, the circles of homesteads that carried secrets in their shapes, and the weighty role of elders whose voices still echo across generations. But first, let the drums speak. Let the rhythm of the earth guide your feet, and let the stars of the Milky Way light your path. For tonight, we don't just tell a story, we relive one. Close your eyes, feel the warm breath of the savannah on your skin, and open your ears to the whispers of the wind. Listen carefully, for they carry the secrets of ages past. Can you hear them? The soft thud of feet hitting the ground, the rhythmic swish of fly whisks, and the low murmur of voices counting the day's most precious resource, cattle. In the heart of Kenya's Great Rift Valley, long before the sun had chased away the night, a group of young Maasai boys were already on their feet. Rubbing the sleep from their eyes, they joined their elders in the age-old ritual of counting the herd. Each head of cattle was a treasure, its worth measured not just in wealth, but in life itself. To lose a cow was to lose a piece of one's fortune and, more importantly, one's future. As the boys grew older, this daily ritual became the backdrop of their lives. Their small hands, once too weak to handle a spear, now confidently gripped the weapon that defined their masculinity. Before the sun rose, they would be out tending the cattle, their bodies becoming one with the vastness of the plains. Theirs was a life of constant vigilance. Not only did they guard their cattle against predators, they also protected their herd from the ever-present threat of cattle rustling. These daring raids, led by rival tribes, were a dangerous game of skill, courage, and trickery, and the young warriors were expected to defend their own with unwavering bravery. Yet, amidst this harsh reality, there were moments of joy. When a warrior returned from a successful raid, the celebration could last for days. The young boys would listen in awe to tales of daring escapes and fierce battles, their imaginations painting vivid pictures of the action. These stories weren't just about bravery. They were about strategy, about outsmarting the enemy through cunning and teamwork. As night fell, the boys would gather closer around the crackling fire, the flames mirroring the excitement in their eyes. The stories fueled their dreams, preparing them for the day when they too would be called upon to defend their people. The weight of these stories, of their culture, their very survival, settled upon their young shoulders, a burden shared, a responsibility honored. Tonight, we begin a journey through these stories, through the lives of the Maasai, a community whose traditions have echoed through generations, whose values have been shaped by the harsh realities of the savannah, and whose stories deserve to be told and heard. Join us as we uncover the tapestry of their lives, thread by thread, story by story, under the watchful gaze of the baobab trees and the eternal brilliance of the African sky. A wise man once said, "If your wife is fat, give her to a friend." Now, if that sounds like something you definitely do not want to hear, then welcome. because things are about to get interesting. First, to the African savanna, home to some of the most ferocious predators and deadliest feuds on the planet. We start in the heart of the Maasai Mara in Tanzania, where we'll meet our subject, a 12-year-old Maasai herdsboy. Now, if you've ever seen pictures of these amazing warriors, you know they're known for their striking red robes and even more striking red hair. In fact, the word Maasai means of the red dress, or red color. But young boys aren't allowed to wear these distinctive garments until they pass through a series of difficult tests. These tests are meant to prove the boys' worthiness and dedication to the tribe. And the one thing all Maasai boys have to master is taking care of the cows. Our young hero has been doing this since he was just a small child. So when the sun rises over the endless plains each morning, he's already up and ready to go. He puts on the simplest of clothing, wraps his spear in a colorful cloth, and heads out to greet the day. Speaking of spears, let's talk about this iconic weapon. If you look at any picture of a Maasai warrior, chances are they're holding a spear, which makes sense considering that protecting the tribe's cattle is their primary responsibility. Now, while spears can vary in length depending on who's using them, for herdsmen they tend to be pretty short, typically only a few feet long. That way they're easier to carry during long walks and quick sprints. Which is important because the herdsman's job is not just to defend the cows, it's also to move them to fresh grazing land every day. And if you think walking behind a bunch of cows sounds boring, then you'd be wrong. First of all, there are thousands of cows to watch over. Just one mistake and you could lose one of them to predators, rustlers, or even get separated from the herd. Second, not only does a herdsman have to watch out for trouble, they also need to keep an eye on the horizon, always scanning for signs of danger. But wait a second. What exactly are they looking for? Well, just about anything could cause trouble. A lion moving through the tall grass could easily ambush a cow, and hundreds of these big cats roam the plains. Plus, there's other predators to watch out for, too, like hyenas, cheetahs, and wild dogs. Now, luckily, these animals usually hunt alone, but there's another group that travels in packs. When they come, it isn't just the animals that are dangerous, it's the people. You see, the grasslands of Africa don't just support lions and zebras, they also support humans. And not just any humans, but some of the most ferocious ones on the planet. The Maasai aren't the only tribe living here. In fact, they share their territory with several other ethnic groups. And historically, competition for resources like water and grazing land has caused conflicts between these tribes. And unlike predators that rely on stealth to get their prey, these human enemies attack head-on, coming from miles away to steal as many cows as possible. And since a cow is a source of food, wealth, and protection, the Maasai defend their herds fiercely. That means our herdsmen might have to outrun rival raiders, protect a cow from lions, or walk barefoot for days without food or water. And after all that, he's only halfway to becoming a full-fledged warrior. Remember, he's only 12 years old and lives in one of the most unforgiving environments on Earth. While the Maasai and other tribes in the area have adapted to life here, non-natives would find it unbearable. Not only does the sun blister the skin, but at night the temperature drops so low that if you didn't bundle up, you'd freeze to death. And there is no bundle to be found. There is no relief from the heat during the day or the cold during the night. No hut to hide in from the sun or tree to climb to get away from predators. For the Maasai, there is only the endless plain and the burning sky above. So it's not surprising that this harsh environment shapes the Maasai's culture and traditions, especially their rituals surrounding fire. We'll let our hero tell you about this After a hard day of work, he returns to camp and immediately runs to the fire. At this point, you're probably wondering, why doesn't anyone just build a shelter to get away from the elements? But there's a very good reason for this. See, the fire doesn't just provide warmth and light. It also serves as a protective barrier against predators and intruders. In fact, the Maasai believe that a fire's smoke can ward off malaria-carrying mosquitoes. But more importantly, it acts as a signal to others in the tribe, letting them know that this is a safe place where weary travelers can stop and rest. So the fire is more than just a source of warmth and light. It's a beacon of hope, a symbol of community, and a tool for survival. For now, our young hero is safe near the fire. But that won't always be the case. When he's older, he'll be expected to spend nights away from the group, guarding the herd against predators. For now, he's too young to handle such a task alone, but he's learning from the best. He watches how experienced herdsmen use their senses to anticipate danger. He sees how they listen for the rustle of leaves that betrays an enemy approaching, and how they smell danger through their keen sense of smell. Knowing when a predator is nearby, he learns to read the tracks left behind by animals and humans, understanding what they say about their size, speed, and intentions. Even though he's young, the boy knows that one day he'll be responsible for protecting the herd, for defending his people and their way of life. Until then, he continues to learn from those around him, honing the skills he'll need to survive. It's important to remember that being a Maasai herdsman is more than just a job. It's a rite of passage, a test of courage and endurance. It's a way of ensuring the continuation of their culture and traditions. The Maasai take their responsibility to preserve their heritage very seriously, and young boys are initiated into this way of life through a series of challenging tasks and ceremonies. One of the most significant of these ceremonies is circumcision. It's a rite of passage that marks a boy's transition into manhood. In Maasai culture, undergoing this procedure without showing any emotion is considered a sign of bravery and maturity. You see, for the Maasai, pain is not just physical. It's also a test of mental strength, a demonstration of endurance and self-control. The ceremony is not just a medical procedure. It's a celebration of courage, a public display of bravery, and a symbolic representation of the strength required to protect the community. To remain silent during the ceremony is to uphold the respect and dignity of the elders and the customs of the tribe. It's a testament to the belief that true strength lies not only in physical prowess, but also in one's ability to endure hardship with grace and resilience. So, when you see a Maasai warrior adorned in his red shuka and proudly displaying his spear, remember that his journey to this point was not easy. It began with the quiet courage of facing pain without complaint. It continued with the bravery shown while protecting his herd and his community. Each scar tells a story of a challenge overcome. Each mark of endurance is a badge of honor. Their traditions are not just remnants of the past. They're an integral part of their identity. And the role of the herdsman in the Maasai community is more than just a job. It's a testament to the strength, courage, and dedication required to safeguard their way of life. From the youngest herdsman to the most seasoned warrior, the Maasai embodied the spirit of their ancestors, carrying on their legacy one sunrise at a time.
In the heart of East Africa, where the sun beats down on the endless plains, lived a community of Maasai people. Their world revolved around their cattle and the young men of the community. The Moravia herdsmen were tasked with the responsibility of safeguarding these herds. But their lives were not just about tending to cattle. It was a journey of self-discovery and transformation. Our story begins with one such herdsman, a young boy whose life is an endless cycle of taking care of the cattle. He is too young to be a warrior, Yet he is old enough to know the harsh realities of his world. One such harsh reality is hunger. It visits them during the dry months, when the once lush plains turn into a golden desert. The tall grasses wither away, leaving only dry, brittle stalks that crunch underfoot. The riverbeds, usually bustling with life, become cracked and empty, reflecting the despair in the eyes of the herdsmen. And the cattle, once fat and lazy, grow thin and skittish, their ribs stark against their dusty hides. Every morning, the boy wakes up with the sun, his stomach growling, a hungry tune. He doesn't remember a time when he wasn't hungry, and so he doesn't complain. He knows that his hunger is the same as everyone else's, a constant companion on their journey across the plains. So he sets out with the cattle, walking 4 miles under the relentless African sun. The heat shimmers on the horizon, blurring the line between earth and sky. His bare feet pound the red earth, the dry dust making tiny drum beats with every step. The boy walks on, his eyes scanning the endless plains, searching for any sign of life, any indication of water or grass. And then, like a mirage, he sees it, a clump of green swaying in the distance, promising life and hope. With renewed energy, he quickens his pace, urging the cattle forward, eager to reach the promised land. But as they approach, the green patch seems to shrink, offering little respite from the arid landscape. And the boy realizes that this, too, is a part of their journey. The constant tease of hope and the hard-edged reality that follows. As the sun climbs higher in the sky, the boy feels the familiar pang of thirst, his throat as dry as the cracked earth beneath his feet. The cattle low in agreement, their tongues heavy in their mouths. They're all thirsty, all searching for the elusive water. And then the boy remembers a small, shallow pool hidden in a thicket of acacia trees. It's not much, but it might hold water, and that's enough to sustain them for now. So he leads the cattle off the beaten path, pushing through thorny bushes and swatting away flies that seem to swarm around him. And finally, there it is, a small pool reflecting the harsh glare of the sun. The water is stagnant and still, but it's water nonetheless. The cattle crowd around, their heavy bodies jostling for position as they drink deeply, their thirst momentarily forgotten. The boy watches them, a sense of satisfaction washing over him. He has led them to water, and for now, that is enough. But the plains have their own cruel tricks. As the boy tends to the cattle, a dark cloud appears on the horizon, growing larger and darker by the minute. In the vast emptiness of the plains, the clouds loom like giants, casting ominous shadows on the ground below. The wind picks up, whipping the tall grasses into a frenzy. The cattle sense the danger and begin to move restlessly, their lowing echoing the unease in the boy's heart. Then the first drops of rain fall, heavy and cold, splattering on the ground and sending up tiny sprays of dust. The boy looks up to see the sky unleashing its fury, the dark clouds opening up and pouring down torrents of rain. The parched earth drinks in the water, the cracked ground sighing with relief. But the storm is relentless, and soon the grasslands are flooded, turning the boy's world into a churning sea of brown water. The cattle struggle against the current, their legs churning to keep them upright. The boy fights to stay on his feet, bracing himself against the wind that threatens to knock him over. He calls out to the cattle, his voice lost in the roar of the storm, and he runs after them, trying to guide them to safety. But the storm shows no mercy. The boy finds himself battling not just the elements, but also his own fear. Yet the storm eventually passes, leaving behind a sky washed clean and a world sparkling with water. The grasslands, once cracked and barren, are now lush and green, the flooded rivers reflecting the clear blue sky. The cattle, shaken but unharmed, graze on the fresh grass, their coats gleaming in the afternoon sun. The boy watches them, a sense of peace settling over him. He has weathered the storm, and for now, that is enough. Their peaceful existence is shattered by the haunting sound of drums in the distance. The rhythm is alien, unsettling, and it carries tales of danger and destruction. The drums speak of a coming storm, a different kind of storm that threatens to wipe away years of their hard work and resilience. A raid is coming. The boy's heart pounds in his chest, echoing the beat of the war drums. The thought of losing their cattle, their lifeline, sends a chill down his spine. But the drums keep beating, insistent and menacing, and the boy knows that there is no escaping what is to come. He and the other Morans drop their clubs, their eyes hardening with resolve. They form a circle around the cattle, their bodies forming a protective ring against the coming darkness. Their spears are clutched tightly in their hands, ready to be unleashed. They wait, their faces grim, their bodies tense, ready to face whatever the night may bring. The drums continue their haunting rhythm, a soundtrack to their fear and determination. And as the night deepens, the Morns stand firm, united against the unknown that lies ahead. Yet sometimes the greatest battles are not against outside forces, but within oneself. The endless days on the plains can be a test of spirit, a trial of patience. There is no clock to measure time, no one to mark the hours. The boy is left to his own devices, his thoughts echoing the silence of the plains. Days stretch into weeks, weeks into months, and the boy finds himself changing. He is not sure if it's the solitude or the vastness of the plains, but something inside him is shifting, growing. He starts talking to himself, not in the local language, but in the ancient tongue of his ancestors. He dances with the tall grasses, pretending they are his companions, and he dreams of being a warrior, strong and respected, his name echoing the bravery of his deeds. But as the sun sets and the night comes alive with nocturnal sounds, he remembers who he is. He is a herdsman, a protector of the cattle, a guardian of his people's way of life. And so he returns to his duty, tending to the cattle, watching over the herd, waiting for the next sunrise. This is a story of growth, of a boy becoming a man, not in years, but in spirit. Under the unforgiving sun, on the endless plains, the boy learns what it means to be a member of the Maasai community, to respect the land, to honor the traditions, and to be courageous in the face of adversity. His journey is not easy, but it is real. His struggles not just of hunger and hardship, but of self-discovery and empowerment. He learns to read the signs of the land, to understand the language of the cattle, and to find strength within himself. He becomes one with the plains, his steps lighter, his eyes sharper, his spirit stronger. And when the time comes for him to become a warrior, he is ready. Not just because he has survived, but because he has thrived in the harshest of environments, proving that the greatest strength comes from facing and overcoming life's challenges head-on.
The relentless sun beat down on the back of the young herdsboy Esnek as he walked beside his father, guiding their cattle across the vast plains of the African savanna. Days blurred into weeks, the monotonous routine etching lines of hardship onto his face. Hunger gnawed at his belly, thirst parched his throat, and the constant struggle against the elements tested his spirit. All around him, nature was a harsh taskmaster, demanding respect and offering little respite. Lions stalked their prey with stealthy grace, reminding him that in this world, survival was a daily victory. But the young boy persevered. He learned to read the subtle language of the wind, to find solace in the vastness of the sky. He watched his father, a seasoned warrior, tracking the movements of the herds, negotiating with fellow herdsmen and fending off predators with stoic calm. He saw in his father an embodiment of the resilience and resourcefulness that were the hallmark of the Maasai people. And as he grew older, the boy too would embody these traits, proving himself worthy of the name Maasai. But the boy's trials were not confined to the endless expanse of the savannah. For as he grew, he knew that there was something far more daunting that awaited him. In the traditions of his people, every young man would one day have to face the Great Cut, a rite of passage that would transform him from a carefree boy into a respected warrior. It was a test of courage, a demonstration of endurance, and a crucial step towards manhood in the Maasai community. The thought of the Great Cut hung over the herdsboy like a dark cloud on the horizon, a constant reminder of what he must face. As the day of the Great Cut approached, the herdsboy's anxiety grew. Questions pounded in his head. What would it be like? Would it hurt very much? Could he endure it? Yet, amidst his fear, there was a flicker of excitement. He knew that once the ritual was done, he would never be the same again. He would be counted among the warriors, respected and admired by his peers. Then, finally, the day arrived. The young herdsman woke up before sunrise, his heart pounding in his chest. Today was the day he would face the great cut. After a simple breakfast of milk and honey, he set off towards the village, where the ceremony was to take place. The walk seemed longer than usual, each step echoing the pounding of his heart. As he approached the village, the noise of drums and chanting grew louder, swelling with a rhythm that seemed to match the beating of his own heart. Upon reaching the center of the village, the boy found all the male members of his community assembled, along with women and children who had come to witness the ceremony. Amidst them, his father stood with a look of solemn pride on his face. The sight of his father's unwavering gaze steadied the boy's nerves. He was not alone. The ceremony began. The boy was led to the center of the assembly, where a circle of elders had formed. They sat cross-legged, their faces etched with the wisdom of age and experience. Before them lay a mat on which a knife was placed. It was not just any knife. It was a ceremonial blade, its edge honed to perfection, its handle wrapped in colorful beads. This knife symbolized the transition the boy was about to undergo. It represented the shedding of childhood and the embrace of manhood. The boy was told to sit down on a low stool, his legs spread wide. The elders chanted in unison, their voices resonating with the weight of tradition. The boy felt their eyes on him, their gazes intense, their expressions unreadable. The sight of the knife lying on the mat before him sent shivers down his spine. He knew that this moment was a defining one, a point of no return. Once the knife touched his skin, there would be no going back. He was about to embark on a journey from which he would emerge as a man. As the chants reached a crescendo, two strong men stepped forward. They were not just any men, they were the Morans, experienced warriors who had successfully undergone the circumcision ritual and now mentored the younger boys. Their bodies were adorned with ornaments, their faces painted with intricate patterns. They approached the boy, their eyes filled with a mixture of solemnity and encouragement. One of them placed a hand on the boy's shoulder, his touch firm yet reassuring. Then the other stepped forward and gently pulled up the cloth covering the boy's lower body. Despite the excruciating pain shooting through him, the boy forced himself not to flinch. Tears welled up in his eyes, but he blinked them away. He knew that to show pain or fear would be a disgrace, not only to himself, but to his family and his entire community. He had been preparing for this moment for years, listening to the stories of previous ceremonies, hearing the tales of bravery and endurance. And now it was his turn to live up to those stories. The elder holding the knife now began the chant. No cry, no fear, no sound. The words echoed in the boy's ears, becoming a mantra that helped him push through the pain. Finally, the elder signaled to the second Moran, who held a red cloth in his hand. The Moran wrapped the cloth around the boy's waist, forming a makeshift loincloth. It was a small gesture, but it symbolized the end of the first phase of the ritual. Now came the most critical part. The boy was led to a separate hut that had been prepared for the ceremony. Inside, the walls were adorned with tribal markings, and the floor was covered with soft grass. On the far end, a fire had been lit, its flames dancing in the dim light. The boy was instructed to lie down on the grass, his body facing upward. An old woman, her face wrinkled with age and experience, was waiting for him. She was the midwife, the one who had guided countless boys through this ritual. As the boy lay on the grass, he could hear the rhythmic beating of drums outside the hut, keeping time with his pounding heart. The midwife began the ritual purification, washing the boy's body with warm water and herbal soap. It was a soothing touch, a brief respite from the ordeal that still awaited him. When she was finished, the midwife stepped aside. gesturing for the Morans to approach. They stood over the boy, their faces grim but supportive. The led Moran picked up the ceremonial knife, its edge gleaming in the firelight. The boy stared at the knife, mesmerized by its sharpness, knowing that in a few moments it would pierce his skin. Despite the fear clawing at his throat, the boy remained silent. He understood that to cry out in pain or fear would bring shame upon himself and his family. He took a deep breath, trying to steady himself for what was to come. The Moran held the knife over the boy's body, ready to make the first cut. Outside, the drumming reached a fever pitch. The boy squeezed his fists, his knuckles turning white. Time seemed to slow down. The pain shot through him like a bolt of lightning, and he bit back a scream. The second Moran steadied the boy's legs, his touch firm and reassuring. As the minutes passed, the cuts continued, each one bringing the boy closer to manhood. With each stroke of the knife, the boy's resolve grew stronger. He gritted his teeth, enduring the pain, refusing to let it break him. Finally, the last cut was made. The boy lay still, his body slick with blood and sweat, his mind focused on the pain that slowly began to subside. The Morans, their faces etched with respect, nodded to the midwife. She rose from her seat and walked over to the boy, her touch gentle as she examined the cuts. Satisfied, she signaled for the ceremony to be over. The boy was lifted up, his body aching, his spirit soaring. As he walked out of the hut, he heard the cheers of the crowd, their voices echoing his triumph. He had faced the great cut and emerged victorious. From that day on, he was no longer a boy. He was a warrior, a full-fledged member of the Maasai society. The elders now gathered around the boy, their faces beaming with pride. They had witnessed courage, determination, and endurance, qualities that were highly valued in their society. His father, his eyes filled with tears of joy, embraced his son, acknowledging the pain he had endured, the bravery he had shown. As the celebrations continued late into the night, the newly circumcised warrior was led to a special hut. Inside, his relatives and friends had prepared a feast in his honor. The air was filled with the aroma of roasted meat and sweet honey. The warrior, despite his aching body, ate voraciously, feeling the strength returning to him with each bite. The following morning, the warrior awoke to a new reality. His body bore the marks of his ordeal, a testament to his courage and endurance. But it was not only his body that had changed. His perspective had shifted. He was no longer the carefree herdsboy. He was now a warrior, a protector of his community, a keeper of the Maasai traditions. He would spend the next years honing his skills, learning the art of defending his people, their cattle, and their way of life. The memory of the great cut would stay with him, a constant reminder of the strength he possessed, the challenges he had overcome, and the responsibilities he now had to carry. And so, as the sun rose over the savannah, the young Maasai warrior stood tall, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. His journey had just begun. Among the Maasai, few names carry as much weight as Lenana the Laban, whose guidance shaped his people during one of the hardest chapters of their history. His rise was not simply political, but spiritual, rooted in prophecy, ritual, and an uncanny ability to see storms before they broke. His birth was foretold, his rise was guided, and his impact was undeniable. But the story of Lenana is more than a tale of a great leader. It's a testament to the enduring spirit of a community grappling with immense challenges, from the spread of deadly diseases among their cattle to the looming threat of encroaching Europeans. In the face of these trials, Lenana didn't wield a spear or lead armies, but his influence was profound. He was a beacon of hope, a voice of reason, and a warrior of the mind. But let's start at the beginning. Lenana was born amidst a time of turmoil and uncertainty. The familiar landscape of the Maasai world was rapidly changing. Cattle diseases were ravaging their herds, causing widespread suffering and threatening their very way of life. Famine stalked the land, leaving families vulnerable and desperate, and whispers of a new power on the horizon. The Europeans, carried by traders and explorers, filled the air. This wasn't just a new face on the continent. It was a storm gathering on the horizon. Into this maelstrom stepped Lenana, not as a warrior or a politician, but as a seer and a healer. Lenana's journey began not with conquest, but with connection. He was deeply attuned to the rhythms of the land, the cycles of nature, and the hopes and fears of his people. His role as a Laban, a spiritual leader and counselor, was not one of command, but of understanding. He listened to the stories of his people, their joys and sorrows, their dreams and their struggles. In doing so, he wove a tapestry of empathy that would become the cornerstone of his influence. And then there were the animals, particularly the cattle, the lifeblood of the Maasai. They were not just livestock, but companions, confidants, and a link to their ancestral past. When the cattle fell ill, the people suffered. When the herds dwindled, their way of life was at risk. Lenana didn't turn away from these challenges. Instead, he embraced them, seeking to understand their root causes and find solutions. He understood that the changes they faced, the diseases, the famines, and the encroaching Europeans were symptoms of a larger shift in their world. To tackle these problems head-on, he needed to understand their deeper causes. The shifts in the weather patterns, the spread of new ideas, and the ambitions of distant powers. This approach wasn't born out of weakness, but out of strength, a strength born of understanding rather than force. So, where did this understanding come from? How did Lenana navigate these complex issues and guide his people through such turbulent times? It came from something akin to intuition, a deep connection to the land and its rhythms, a keen observation of human behavior, and a willingness to learn from all, regardless of background or belief. It was a blend of practicality and spirituality that made him unique. One of Lenana's most remarkable traits was his ability to predict storms before they appeared on the horizon. This wasn't just luck or coincidence. It was a combination of keen observation, intimate knowledge of the land, and a touch of the mystical. He'd read the subtle signs in nature, the behavior of birds, the direction of the wind, and the patterns of the clouds. His predictions weren't always accurate, but they were informed, which lent them a sense of authority. This skill was more than just a curiosity. It was a practical necessity. Storms could bring life-giving rain or devastating floods. Being able to predict them gave the Maasai a crucial advantage in managing their resources and preparing for potential disasters. But Lenana's influence didn't stop at the practical. He also wove these observations into his religious beliefs and teachings. For the Maasai, the natural world wasn't just a backdrop. It was a living, breathing part of their faith. The sky, the land, and the creatures that inhabited them were all seen as manifestations of the divine. Lenana's ability to interpret the signs in nature gave him a direct line to the divine will. He wasn't just a man who could predict the weather. He was a conduit between the spiritual and the physical, a translator of the divine message. This made him a powerful figure, someone who could not only guide his people through the practicalities of life, but also illuminate the spiritual path. Now let's turn our attention to Lenana's relationship with the Europeans. As the Europeans began to encroach on Maasai lands, many of his contemporaries saw them as a threat to be fought, a danger to be avoided, or a mystery to be feared. But Lenana was different. He recognized the growing power of the Europeans. But instead of retreating in fear or anger, he reached out to understand. Now, this wasn't a naive acceptance of colonialism or a surrender to foreign influence. It was a deliberate choice to engage, to learn, and to negotiate. Lenana understood that the world was changing and that the Maasai would need to adapt to survive. To do so, he felt it was essential to understand the Europeans, their culture, their goals, and their weaknesses. Some might call this diplomacy, but it was more than that. It was a careful balancing act, a tightrope walk between two cultures that seemed worlds apart. Lenana wasn't just meeting with the Europeans as a representative of his people. He was also learning their language, customs, and ways of thinking. He was bridging the gap between two cultures, seeking common ground and building relationships that would serve his people well in the years to come. In his interactions with the Europeans, Lenana didn't shy away from confrontation when necessary. He wasn't afraid to speak up against injustice or exploitation, but he did so with a strategic mind, always keeping the long-term welfare of his people in sight. This approach wasn't always easy. There were times when he was criticized by his own people for being too accommodating, or by the Europeans for not accepting their dominance unquestioningly. But Lenana remained steadfast, guided by his vision of a future where the Maasai could thrive despite the changing world around them. The essence of Lenana's wisdom lay in his ability to connect with people on a deeper level, to see the humanity in each individual, regardless of their background or beliefs. He didn't just want to understand the Europeans, he wanted to build relationships, to find common values and forge lasting bonds. He understood that in the complex game of international relations, sometimes the best way to protect your people was to stand not just alongside them, but also at the table with those who could help or hinder their future. In essence, Lenana's approach was a masterclass in diplomacy, a blend of cultural understanding, strategic thinking, and unwavering commitment to his people's future. It was a legacy that went beyond his lifetime, shaping the Maasai's place in modern Kenya. However, Lenana's story doesn't end here. In fact, it's only just beginning. Stay tuned for more updates. By the end of the 19th century, the winds of change that Lenana had long warned about had begun to sweep across the Maasai plains. No longer were the white-skinned foreigners just distant rumors carried on the wind or figures in hazy dreams. Now they stood in camps surrounded by high fences, marked maps with strange lines, and demanded agreements sealed with ink instead of beads. For the Maasai, whose world was shaped by cattle, rituals, and movement across open grasslands, this intrusion was more than political. It was a wound against their way of life. And yet, in this storm, Lenana remained calm. He was no warrior with a spear to raise against rifles. Instead, he leaned on what had always set him apart: vision. It was said that he foresaw the arrival of these outsiders long before they appeared, describing pale-skinned men with tools of fire and iron. For his followers, this prophecy confirmed that Lenana was the only leader who could interpret and perhaps bend the designs of fate. Colonial officers were quick to recognize his influence. To rule the Maasai, they knew meant reckoning with the Laban. They offered treaties, gifts, and promises, but beneath their words lay a sharper intent: control. One of the most significant outcomes of these dealings was the Anglo-Maasai Agreement of 1904, which forced the Maasai to cede large portions of their ancestral land in exchange for reserves. The plains that had once stretched endlessly were now bounded by lines, invisible but enforced. Families who had grazed their cattle freely for generations found themselves restricted. Warriors, once feared across East Africa, were pushed into smaller spaces. For many, this was nothing less than a betrayal of their birthright. Yet, Lenana's supporters argued that he had chosen the only path that could keep the Maasai intact. By negotiating, by yielding in part, he preserved the heart of the people. His critics, however, accused him of weakness, of siding with the British instead of resisting like his brother Sentu might have. The rift between pragmatism and defiance deepened, echoing across the villages. It is easy, in hindsight, to ask why Lenana agreed to treaties that seemed unfair. But history is not so simple. The Maasai had just endured waves of famine, disease, and internal conflict. Their numbers were reduced, their warriors weakened, and their cattle, the foundation of their lives, decimated. Against the overwhelming power of a global empire, Lenana sought a painful compromise. Survival, even at a cost. And in this, his prophetic aura only deepened. People whispered that he had not given away the land, but safeguarded a future. His words were like shields, his prayers like anchors. Even as boundaries tightened, his followers continued to believe that Enkai had spoken through him. As night falls on this part of the story, imagine the silence of a Maasai campfire in those days. The crackle of flames, the shadows of warriors, and Lenana's voice rising above it all, assuring his people that though they had lost ground, they had not lost themselves. This is a moment that echoes across the centuries, a testament to the enduring spirit of a people. In the face of profound loss, they clung to their traditions, their beliefs, and most importantly, to each other. The campfire tales kept alive the memory of a vast homeland and the hope for a brighter tomorrow. Under the star-studded African sky, stories like these became the lifeline that carried culture, identity, and dreams of a restored future. As the 20th century dawned, the Maasai landscape was irrevocably altered. Large tracts of their ancestral lands were fenced off, gazetted as game reserves, or transformed into private ranches. This displacement, while tragic, would serve to concentrate the Maasai into smaller, more defined territories. Ironically, this would contribute to a growing sense of cultural cohesion. Within these concentrated areas, the Maasai began to articulate a collective identity, distinct from the shifting boundaries imposed by the colonial rulers. The forced sidenarization also led to the establishment of schools, clinics, and trading centers, albeit often on land taken from the Maasai themselves. These developments, while intended to control and integrate the Maasai into the colonial system, would inadvertently play a role in the preservation of their culture. Schools, for instance, became spaces where Maasai children learned English, a skill that would be crucial in the fight for land rights and representation in the years to come. Similarly, the trading centers, though exploitative, provided a platform for the Maasai to engage in the cash economy, albeit on their own terms. They adapted to selling goods such as beads, jewelry, and handicrafts made from traditional materials to colonial administrators and tourists. In essence, the early 20th century marked a turning point for the Maasai, while they suffered dispossession and forced assimilation. These experiences also catalyzed the formation of a strong cultural core. The Maasai began to see themselves as a distinct people with a shared history, customs, and struggles. This realization laid the groundwork for the powerful political and social movements of the mid-20th century. During this period, the Maasai would leverage their unique identity and experiences to demand land rights, religious freedom, and political representation. They engaged in protests, petitions, and legal battles, often employing the very tools of the colonial state against itself. Their leaders, drawing on traditional authority and modern education, navigated the complexities of colonial bureaucracy and public opinion. The Maasai also utilized the power of storytelling and cultural expression to raise awareness about their plight. Elders recounted historical injustices, while young people created new narratives that celebrated Maasai resilience and identity. Music, dance, and visual arts became powerful tools for articulating their experiences and fostering solidarity. By the mid-20th century, the Maasai movement had gained significant momentum. Key events such as the formation of the Kikuyu Central Association in Kenya and the rise of the Young Turks in Tanzania demonstrated the growing political consciousness among the Maasai. These groups, though diverse in their strategies and ideologies, united in their opposition to colonial policies and their demand for self-determination. The Kikuyu Central Association, for example, played a pivotal role in mobilizing the Kikuyu people against British colonial rule in Kenya. Similarly, the Young Turks in Tanzania provided a platform for educated Maasai and other African intellectuals to advocate for independence and self-rule. However, the colonial authorities responded to these movements with increased repression. Leaders were arrested, communities were punished, and cultural practices were banned. Despite this, the Maasai persisted, demonstrating remarkable courage and determination in the face of adversity. Their struggle became a testament to the indomitable spirit of a people committed to preserving their identity and securing their future. As we reflect on this part of the journey, it's important to recognize the depth and complexity of the Maasai experience during the colonial era. While we've touched upon themes of cultural resilience and political awakening, it's crucial to acknowledge the immense challenges and suffering they endured. The loss of land, the disruption of traditional ways of life, and the violence inflicted by colonial forces had a profound impact on the Maasai people. It's essential to honor their resilience in the face of these hardships, and to recognize that their strength was drawn from their deep-rooted cultural traditions and unwavering sense of community. The Maasai response to colonialism was not monolithic. There were internal divisions, differing perspectives, and various levels of engagement with colonial structures. Some embraced Christianity, while others remained steadfast in their traditional beliefs. Some participated in colonial economic activities, while others resisted through acts of defiance. Understanding this complexity allows us to appreciate the richness and diversity of the Maasai experience during this period. It challenges us to move beyond simplistic narratives of victimhood or resistance, and to recognize the agency and adaptability of the Maasai people. The story of the Maasai during the colonial era is a reminder of the profound impact of historical forces on cultural landscapes. It underscores the importance of understanding the nuances of colonialism and its lasting legacies. As we continue to explore the journey of the Maasai, it's essential to approach their history with sensitivity, respect, and a commitment to understanding their lived experiences. By doing so, we can honor their resilience, celebrate their cultural richness, and learn from their enduring strength. The year is 1908, and the setting sun bleeds across the plains of Kenya. A lone figure sits in silhouette against this dying light. It's him, our hero, Lenana, the last great leader of the Maasai. This is a tale that's part history, part myth. By this time in history, the Laban, who had once been at the center of every whisper in Maasailand, grew older. His hair streaked with white, his once powerful voice softer but no less commanding. Lenana had become a figure suspended between two worlds. One was the ancient rhythms of Maasai tradition, the other the restless pulse of colonial expansion. His supporters still came to him for blessing before battles of spirit or of land. Warriors bowed their heads, mothers brought infants to his homestead, and elders leaned on his counsel. But the wider horizon had shifted. British officers now ruled in courts, soldiers patrolled roads, and missionaries pressed their message of another God. Lenana, the prophet of Enkai, had to navigate carefully, choosing when to resist and when to yield. Some remembered him as the man who preserved the Maasai when famine, rinderpest, and colonial guns might have broken them. Others muttered that he had surrendered too much, trading land for fleeting promises. Yet both views pointed to one truth. Lenana bore the weight of a nation's survival on his shoulders. In his final years, he was less seen in negotiation tents and more by the fireside, where prophecy was whispered as softly as prayer. He told of times yet to come when Maasai youth would no longer herd freely, when warriors' spears would hang unused, when cattle would walk behind wire fences. To some, these words were despairing. To others, they were guidance, a warning that survival would demand new ways of strength. This is the twilight of an era. The old ways are dying, and the new ones aren't born yet. And so Lenana waits, watches, and whispers. Here goes. A Maasai elder, seated on a wooden stool beneath an acacia tree, wrapped in a red shuka, surrounded by younger Maasai listening intently, while colonial buildings loom faintly in the distance. In this image, we see the weight of tradition on one side and the looming presence of colonialism on the other. The Maasai elder, central to the narrative, sits in a posture of wisdom under the iconic acacia tree, symbolizing the continuity of tradition. His red shuka signifies his status and the connection to his cultural roots. The younger Maasai around him represent the community, and their attentive posture shows respect and the importance placed on oral traditions and the stories passed down through generations. The colonial buildings in the distance symbolize the encroaching modern world and the challenges it brings. But they are kept at a distance, emphasizing that despite the changes on the horizon, tradition remains central to the Maasai way of life. Now, let's weave in another layer to this image. Let's add a touch of melancholy to the scene. Instead of having the colonial buildings just loom in the background, let's make them silhouetted against the sunset. This will highlight the contrast between tradition and modernity even more starkly. It also adds a touch of nostalgia and sets a tone of an era coming to a close. The fading light could also be a metaphor for the dying traditions and way of life. Finally, let's introduce a bit of symbolism to ground the scene in meaning. A lone eagle, perhaps a majestic bald eagle representing the United States, or a European bird of prey representing the colonizers, could be perched on the acacia tree. This would symbolize the encroachment of foreign powers and the potential threat they pose to the traditional way of life. The eagle, often a symbol of power and freedom, could also serve as a reminder of the double standards of colonialism, as well as the complex feelings of pride and subjugation that come with colonization. With these enhancements, our CapCut prompt becomes a rich tapestry of symbolism and meaning. Now let's render this prompt into reality using Midjourney or any other AI art tool you prefer. The result should be a captivating image that encapsulates the essence of this segment, where the wisdom of tradition is juxtaposed against the encroaching forces of change and colonialism. But our journey isn't over yet. We still have more of Lenana's story to uncover. Let's push forward and explore the final chapters of his life and legacy. As we approach the end of Lenana's story, the setting shifts from the Great Rift Valley to a place called Njoro, nestled near the foothills of the Aberdare Mountains. This region, known as Kikuyu country, holds a special place in the narrative, for it was here that Lenana's life began, and here, too, his journey will end. This return to his roots underscores the cyclical nature of life and death. Just as the Maasai have deep connections to their ancestral lands, so too does Lenana. The choice to end his story here highlights the importance of lineage, tradition, and the interconnectedness of generations. But why does Lenana choose to come back to this place? Perhaps it's a desire to reconnect with his past, to find solace in the familiar landscapes of his youth. Or maybe it's a strategic move, a way to fortify the Maasai against the pressures of the encroaching colonial forces. Whatever the reason, his return transforms this simple physical journey into a profound spiritual homecoming. It's as if the land itself has a role to play in his story, offering him comfort and strength as he navigates the final chapters of his life. The Kikuyu country, with its lush greenery and rich soil, offers a stark contrast to the open plains of the Maasai Mara. This shift in landscape symbolizes the changing times. The mountains, with their dense forests, could be seen as a metaphor for the complexities and challenges of the modern world. A world that Lenana has spent a lifetime trying to protect his people from. As the story reaches its climax, the setting mirrors the internal conflicts Lenana has grappled with throughout his life. Surrounded by towering peaks, he confronts not only the external pressures of colonialism, but also the internal struggles of preserving tradition in a rapidly changing world. The fact that Lenana's story ends here, far from the vast open spaces of the Maasai Mara, emphasizes the idea that home isn't just a place, it's a feeling. It's a sense of belonging and continuity that transcends physical location. In choosing to end his story here, the author reinforces the enduring legacy of the Maasai people and their deep connection to their ancestral lands. Even in death, Lenana's spirit remains rooted in the soil of his homeland, ensuring that the stories, traditions, and values he fought so hard to preserve will continue to thrive for generations to come. Here's another thought-provoking CapCut prompt for you. Imagine a scene where Lenana, now quite old, sits outside his hut in the evening, sharing stories with a small group of attentive Maasai youth. The setting sun casts long shadows, giving the scene a somber feel. Lenana, with a twinkle in his eye, weaves tales of bravery, resilience, and the rich culture of the Maasai, instilling important values in the next generation. This image symbolizes the importance of preserving cultural heritage and passing it on to future generations. It's a reminder that despite the challenges of modernization and colonialism, traditions like oral storytelling remain vital to the survival of a culture. Let us bring this segment to a reflective close by revisiting the initial CapCut prompt that launched our journey. Recall the scene of Lenana as a young warrior charging into battle, a symbol of courage and strength. Now, imagine a variation of that same scene. Instead of a young Lenana, picture a weathered but resolute elder. He stands at the edge of a metaphorical battlefield, perhaps facing the challenges of a colonial meeting or a cultural clash, ready to stand his ground. The image of an elder warrior evokes a sense of continuity, showing that strength and courage don't diminish with age. It also symbolizes the resilience of the Maasai spirit in the face of adversity. Let's add a touch of symbolism to deepen the meaning of this image. Let the elder Lenana be adorned with ceremonial ornaments, signifying his status as a leader and his connection to his cultural roots. As the sun sets behind him, casting a warm glow on his determined face, it becomes clear that this elder warrior is not just a survivor, but a beacon of strength, guiding his people through turbulent times with wisdom and grace. This image serves as a powerful metaphor for the essence of Lenana's story. Despite the passage of time and the changing circumstances, the spirit of the Maasai warrior remains undimmed. Lenana embodies this spirit, navigating the complexities of the modern world while staying true to his cultural heritage. Every morning I wake up before the sun, open my window and breathe in the dew-filled air, feel the cool breeze on my skin, and hear the songs of birds waking up. I stretch and yawn, grateful for another day to explore this beautiful planet. But have you ever stopped to wonder what your morning looks like from above? What would a hawk see circling high above our street? In today's episode, we're taking flight to peek into the lives of others from a bird's eye view, experiencing their worlds from overhead. Join me as we embark on this journey. Our first stop takes us to the heart of Africa, where rolling grasslands meet the azure sky. Here, nestled within this vast landscape, we find the Maasai, a community deeply rooted in tradition. And at the center of their existence is the Nkang, their circular homestead. But this is no ordinary dwelling. It's a microcosm of their world, a living map that tells the story of an entire culture. Now, at first glance, the Nkang might seem like a simple collection of huts, but to the Maasai, every aspect of it is steeped in meaning. Everything from the materials used to the layout has a story to tell. So let's take a closer look, shall we? As we come in closer, we'll notice the outermost feature of the Nkang, the fence. Woven from the sharp thorns of acacia branches, it acts as a shield against predators, keeping both people and cattle safe during the night. This boundary is not just practical, it's symbolic too, representing the edge between the familiar and the unknown, between safety and danger. Crossing this threshold, entering the circle, means leaving the chaos of the outside world behind. Inside the fence, the land is carefully cultivated, a patchwork quilt of crops and grazing space for their beloved cattle. These cattle aren't just animals, they're a way of life, a source of food, a symbol of wealth, and a key part of their cultural practices. To the Maasai, cattle are so important that they are often central to marriage ceremonies. A young man must accumulate a sizable herd to pay bride price for his future wife. The more cattle he owns, the wealthier he is seen. And if we continue to look closely, we'll start to notice the different structures within the circle, scattered throughout, each with its own purpose and function. At the very heart of the enclosure, there is always a cattle enclosure, a place where the herd can seek refuge and be protected. Around this central point, the huts of the women are arranged. Each hut represents a family within the community. It's the wife's domain, where she lives with her children and carries out her daily tasks. Now, these huts are small and round, built from a mixture of mud and cow dung, with conical thatched roofs. They may seem humble, yet they are sanctuaries of warmth and hospitality. The circular shape symbolizes the close-knit community, the idea that no one is left out in the cold. There are no sharp corners or edges to hurt someone accidentally. Everyone is welcome. Speaking of huts, did you know that I've been lucky enough to stay in many of them myself? In fact, I've spent over 27 nights in villages around the world. Each experience was unique, filled with new lessons and friendships. For example, did you know that in a traditional Japanese house called a machiya tatami, mats define each room and sliding doors allow for flexible spaces? Or have you heard that in a Moroccan riad, the courtyard is the heart of the home, bringing light and life to the interior? I could go on about these incredible places. If we look back at the encampment, we'll notice something interesting. The huts are not just randomly placed. They are arranged in a pattern. They face inwards towards the cattle and each other, creating a sense of community and togetherness. This arrangement shows that the Maasai value their social connections. They want to be close to their neighbors, to be able to see and talk to them easily. It's a reminder that even though they live in a vast and sometimes harsh environment, they are not alone. They have each other. Now, the men's huts are usually separate from the main cluster, reflecting their nomadic lifestyle. When the men go on journeys, which can last for days or even weeks, they sleep in small bandas made of sticks and leaves. These temporary shelters symbolize their connection to the land, their willingness to adapt to whatever the environment throws their way. Now, let's take a moment to appreciate the materials used in the construction of the nganj. The Maasai make use of natural resources in a sustainable and clever way. The huts, for instance, are made from local materials, mud and cow dung, which are readily available. They also use wood from acacia trees, which are known for their durability and resistance to termites. Even the tools they use are simple and natural, such as sticks, stones, and animal bones. This shows a deep understanding of their environment and a commitment to living in harmony with it. Now, before we move on, I want to take a moment to talk about the symbolism of the circle itself. The ngang is not just a collection of buildings. It's a symbol of the Maasai's worldview. The circular shape represents the continuity of life, the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth, the rhythm of the seasons. It also symbolizes unity, the coming together of families, and the strength that comes from working together. The engine is a reminder that life is interconnected and that everything is part of a greater whole. When we fly away from the engine, we begin to see it in its full context, how it fits into the larger landscape. We'll notice that there are often several ngans in a community, each representing a different family or clan. As we pan across the landscape, we'll see them dotted like islands in a sea of green. Each one a hub of activity, each one a testament to the resilience and adaptability of the human spirit. Now, let's imagine ourselves flying even higher. Now, from this vantage point, the Earth looks like a patchwork quilt, a mosaic of colors and textures. We can see how the ngan fits into this larger picture. It's a small but vital part of the ecosystem. The crops and livestock within the circle help sustain the community. And in turn, the community's activities shape the land around them. From this perspective, we begin to understand the interconnectedness of all things. We see that the fate of the people is linked to the health of the land and the well-being of the cattle. So here we are at the end of our aerial tour of the encampment. We've seen the cattle enclosure, the huts, the overall layout, and the materials used. We've also considered the symbolism of the circle itself and how it reflects the Maasai's worldview. But one question still remains. How does it feel to enter the Nkong, to cross that threshold and step into another way of life? Well, the answer is it feels like stepping into another world. A world where the rhythm of life is slower, where the connection to the land is profound, and where the bonds of community are strong. It's a humbling experience to witness a culture so different from our own, yet so rich in tradition and meaning. In the heart of Kenya, surrounded by rolling hills and endless skies, the ngan stands as a testament to the strength and resilience of the Maasai community. It's a place where tradition and modernity meet, where ancient customs and beliefs are kept alive, and where the wisdom of generations past is passed down to the next. As we leave the ngan, we carry with us the spirit of the Maasai, the warmth of their hospitality, and the timeless wisdom of their traditions. The ngan is more than just a homestead. It's a window into the soul of a community. When I made my first short film about the Maasai, it was clear to me that to tell their story well, I had to understand what the word story even means to them. In their culture, stories aren't something that happened somewhere else to someone else long ago. Stories are everything because they are a tool to teach life itself, and there is nowhere better to learn than at home. So when I visited the village of Kaseri in Kenya, I did not go merely as a visitor. I went as a student, and one day, while walking through the village, I saw a young man sitting near his home. His name was Kisaro. He was leaning against a fence, chewing cot and looking out at the plains. I sat down next to him and asked if I could film him for my project. At first he was hesitant, but then he agreed and I turned the camera on him. "Can you tell me a story?" I asked. He looked at me for a second, then stood up and walked off frame. As he disappeared, I followed him into the dusty streets, tracking the path he took until we came to a place that looked like any other. But when I turned back, I realized there was no longer a young man sitting there. There was only an old man, his hair streaked with grey, his face wrinkled with the lines of a lifetime lived on the land. He looked at me and said, "I am Kisaro," and then he began to speak. In the Maasai language, he told me about a boy who was born in this village and had a friend named Olorinkoi. They were inseparable. They played together as children and grew up together as warriors. Then, when they were men, they got married and settled down, having children and cattle and living in peace. He told me how they farmed the land, herded the cattle, and respected their elders. He told me about the ceremonies they held and the stories they shared around the fire. And finally, he told me about the day Olorinkoi died. As he spoke, the old man gestured to different places around the village. Each turn showed me another part of his life. His house was here. The fig tree he climbed as a child was there. The exact spot where he and Olorinkoi met for the first time was right outside Olkania's hut. By the end of the story, the entire village had become a character. In telling his tale, Kisaro showed me how to read the landscape of his life. But our time together was almost over. Before saying goodbye, I asked him to tell me one last thing, something that would capture the essence of a life lived among the Maasai. He looked out over the village, then turned back to me and said, "Segment 3.2. It's a crisp morning in the Great Rift Valley. Mist hangs low over the plains, and the sun rises over the silhouetted shapes of cattle standing in a circle. The enclosure is called an enkang, a term in the Ma language that simply means fence. But to understand what the enkang is, you have to see it in action. When the sun rises higher and the mist burns off, the scene comes into focus. Inside the fence are many small huts built from sticks and covered in cow dung, creating a tight cluster of homes. Here, a group of Maasai women are stirring fires outside their huts, tending to the daily tasks of collecting water and making breakfast. Their brightly colored shuka cloths, traditionally worn by the younger women, contrast sharply with the black and white pattern of the huts behind them. Nearby, a young girl gathers firewood while a man leans against a nearby hut watching over the cattle. As the morning progresses, the scene becomes busier. Children arrive, playing and laughing as they run between the huts and the grazing cattle. A young warrior walks purposefully towards the gate, keeping his eyes sharp for danger from lions or other predators. An elder sits quietly near the fire, enjoying the warmth as he watches the world go by. All the while, the cattle remain in the center, munching calmly on the tall grasses that surround them. Life moves at its own pace inside the enkang, undisturbed by the rest of the world. Now, if you look closely, you'll notice something strange. The cattle aren't just standing in a loose herd. They're actually gathered around something in the very center of the circle. That something is nothing at all. It's an open space where the earth has been packed down by generations of hooves. A spot where countless ceremonies have been held and where the spirits of the ancestors are said to gather. For the Maasai, this open space represents the heart of the enkang and the source of its power. The cattle are always kept in the center of the circle. because they are the basis of Maasai life. Without cattle, there is no food, no dowry to be paid for a bride, and no way to feed the ancestors after death. In fact, the cattle are so important that when the Maasai settle in a new area, the first thing they do is build an enclosure for them. Building an enkang is a rite of passage, a ceremony that marks the transition from a wandering tribe to a settled community. It is a public declaration of arrival and a way to protect their most valuable asset. The materials are simple, usually just thorny bushes that are cut down and woven together to form a thick barrier. The thorns protect the cattle from lions and other predators, as well as from rival tribes or anyone else who might try to steal them. But the thorns also serve a deeper purpose. They are a symbol of the sacredness of the enclosure and a reminder that those who enter must do so with respect. Only the most skilled men are allowed to build the enkang, and the process itself is a test of strength and endurance. The job requires long hours of back-breaking labor, and the men must work quickly before the thorny branches begin to sprout. Once the enclosure is finished, it is considered to be a living thing, almost like a member of the community. It is given a name and is treated with respect. The men will often sing and dance around the enkong during ceremonies, celebrating its strength and thanking it for protecting their cattle. But the protection goes beyond just the cattle. The enkang also keeps the community safe from external threats. In a world without fences or walls, the enclosure is the closest thing to a home that the Maasai have. It is a place where they can feel safe and secure, where they can live according to their traditions and values, away from the outside world. But the enkang does more than just keep the community safe. It is also a place where they can connect with their past and their future. The open space in the center of the enclosure is a reminder of the generations of Maasai who have lived there before them. It is a place where they can feel the presence of their ancestors, and where they can pass on their traditions and knowledge to their children. The cattle that are kept in the center of the enkang are also a link to the past. They are not just a source of food and wealth, but also a way of honoring the ancestors. The Maasai believe that the cattle are the embodiment of their culture and identity. By taking care of their cattle, the Maasai are carrying on the legacy of their ancestors and ensuring that their way of life will continue for generations to come. However, not everyone is welcome in the enkang. Outsiders are expected to show respect when they visit. They must walk slowly and carefully, and they are not allowed to touch anything inside the enclosure without permission. This helps to maintain the sanctity of the space and ensures that the peace and harmony of the community are not disturbed. Despite the challenges they face, the Maasai people continue to live in their traditional way of life, protected by their enclosures and guided by their connection to the past. Their resilience and determination to preserve their culture are an inspiration to all who know them. Within the enkang, even the placement of people carries memory. Elders sit near the inner fire, closest to wisdom and stories. Warriors linger near the gates, closest to danger and defense. Children weave between huts, learning without being told that life itself is layered. Protection on the outside, guidance in the center, continuity in between. When the sun dips below the horizon, the colors of the sky bleed into the earth, and the stars begin to prick the darkening canvas above. You hear the laughter of children playing, the murmur of adults speaking, the crackle of a fire starting up. Soon the enkang will be alive again with the rhythm of daily life. For now, though it rests, the light fades quickly, and soon the only sound is the wind whispering through the tall grasses. The sky deepens from blue to indigo to black, and the stars begin to gleam like a million tiny fires. Above, looking down from the sky, it is easy to get lost in the immensity of the darkness. Yet here, too, there is order. Every blade of grass, every grain of sand, every footprint in the dust has its place in the cycle of life. There is a geometry to existence, an underlying harmony that connects all things. In this vast darkness, there is also the promise of new life. The moon, a silver sickle in the velvety sky, waxes each night, drawing closer to fullness. The cold of night gives way to the warmth of dawn, and the Enkang wakes to the promise of a new day. When I first encountered the Enkang, I saw it as a symbol of resilience, a testament to the enduring spirit of the Maasai people. Over time, my perspective shifted. Now, I see it as a teacher. Its lessons are etched in the very fabric of its being, in the circular shape that symbolizes the interconnectedness of all things, in the layers of protection that remind us of the importance of community, and in the quiet wisdom of its elders. The Enkang holds the key to understanding the Maasai way of life, but these lessons are not confined to the Enkang alone. They echo in the vast expanse of the African savanna, in the rhythms of nature and the cycles of life and death. If we are willing to listen, the savanna has much to teach. It speaks of interdependence, of balance and harmony, of the sacredness of life. It teaches us to live in tune with the natural world, to respect the delicate web of relationships that sustains us all. The path to understanding is a winding one, but the rewards are immeasurable. Just as the Maasai have done for generations, we can learn to read the signs of the savanna, to find wisdom in the patterns of nature. With each passing day, the world becomes more complex, more fraught with challenges and uncertainties. In this time of change, we need the wisdom of the ages more than ever before. And yet here it is, all around us, waiting to be discovered. Like the Maasai, we are part of the greater whole, intricately connected to the natural world and to each other. Our actions have ripple effects, touching the lives of others in ways we may never know. Like the concentric circles of the Enkang, our lives are shaped by the forces that surround us. The challenges we face, the opportunities that come our way, the connections we make, they all contribute to the tapestry of our existence. But amidst the complexity, there is a guiding principle that can bring clarity and focus. Simplicity. In a world that often feels overwhelming, we can find solace and strength in the simple truths of nature and tradition. The rhythm of the seasons, the cycles of birth and growth, death and renewal, the interconnectedness of all living things. These are the lessons that have sustained the Maasai for centuries, and they can sustain us too. It is a journey of self-discovery, a process of unraveling the complexities of modern life to find the timeless wisdom that has always been within our grasp. As we learn to simplify our lives, we open ourselves up to a deeper understanding of the world around us and the place we have in it. We discover the interconnectedness of all things, the delicate balance that sustains life, the beauty of simplicity, and the power of tradition. It is a call to action, a challenge to apply these lessons to our everyday lives, to be stewards of the earth, to honor the cycles of nature, to seek balance in our relationships, to embrace change with grace, and to find strength in simplicity. In doing so, we become part of the solution, contributing to a better world for ourselves and for generations to come. This is a story without end. It continues on long after you have gone, and your absence leaves a space for new memories to be made. In this liminal space between past and present, between departure and arrival, there is a profound sense of peace. The Enkang stands silent and strong, a beacon of resilience and wisdom in a world that often feels chaotic and uncertain. It reminds us that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope for a brighter tomorrow. There is a certain poetry to the circular shape of the enclosure, a reflection of the cyclical nature of life, death, and rebirth. It is a place where the boundaries between past, present, and future are blurred, where the wisdom of ancestors echoes through the generations, and where the footsteps of those who came before us still resonate in the dust. It is a place where time seems to stand still, where the ancient rhythms of life play out against the backdrop of a timeless landscape. The silence of the Enkang is not just the absence of sound, but a presence in itself. It is a space that invites introspection, that calls for a deep listening, not just to the sounds that surround us, but to the whispers of our own souls. In this silence, we find a connection to something greater than ourselves, to the web of life that binds us all. Here are the beginnings of endings and the endings of beginnings. Here is where the path of one traveler ends and the path of another begins. Here is where the sun sets on one journey and rises on another. Here is where the past is honored and the future is born. Here is where memories are made and stories are shared. I invite you to close your eyes for a moment and imagine yourself within the Enkang. What do you see, hear, smell, and feel? What memories does this place evoke for you? What hopes and dreams does it stir within your soul? Take a deep breath and let yourself relax into this space. Feel the warmth of the sun on your skin, the soft caress of the breeze on your face. Listen to the gentle murmur of voices, the soothing sounds of nature all around you. Allow yourself to be fully present in this moment, to let go of all your worries and cares. And then, when you are ready, open your eyes and bring your awareness back to your surroundings. As you do so, take with you the peace and tranquility of the Enkang, the wisdom of the elders, the strength of the warriors, the innocence of the children. Carry with you the spirit of the enclosure, the interconnectedness of all things, the reverence for life, the harmony with nature. And so it is in the quiet contemplation of the Enkang that we find the strength and wisdom to navigate the complexities of modern life. It is here that we are reminded of the timeless truths that have guided humanity for generations. The importance of community, the value of tradition, the sacredness of life. May the lessons learned here serve as a guiding light on your journey, a source of strength in times of adversity and a wellspring of wisdom in times of plenty. With each passing season, the river grows smaller, but one thing remains constant: the rising sun over the endless plains, and every morning the elders wake with the sun. Their bodies may ache, their steps be slow, but their minds are sharp as the thorn that clings to the dry grasses. They are not hunters anymore, nor do they need to drive back lions from their camp. Their strength is in the stories they carry, the history that beats in their veins like the second heartbeat. Today is no different. As the sky lightens, they gather near the fire, their voices deep and resonant as the drums of the earth weave a tapestry of decisions for the day, where the cattle will graze, when the warriors will practice their Ajol's dances, which rituals will honor the spirits of their ancestors. Today, the decision is about water. One of the young men, barely more than a boy, with his head shaved in the warrior's style, suggests a distant watering hole. It's a risky choice. Known for its scorching heat, home to dangerous snakes and unpredictable crocodiles. Yet water is life, and life is precious. An elder named Olkina rises. His name means the strong. Even now, his shoulders seem to hold the weight of that name, though his steps are slow and his gaze distant, as if seeing beyond the mundane world. He is nearly 80 years old, his face a roadmap of wrinkles etched by the sun and wind. He speaks, His voice, though hoarse, echoes with authority. The very air around him seems to listen. His words are carried by a lifetime of observation, of battles fought and cattle driven across the parched earth. He recalls seasons past, the dry spell that turned the river to dust, the year the rains fell in torrents, drowning the hope from a man's heart. Each elder brings his own wisdom to the circle. Some are known for their knowledge of medicine, others for their tracking skills, or the tales of bravery in their bloodline. But the decision must be unanimous. A wrong choice can mean the difference between a full belly and hunger, between life and death. After the morning smoke fades and the decision is made, the warriors set out to water. Those left behind continue their duties. Women milk cows, mend fishing nets, or weave intricate jewelry from beads and bone. Children learn the language of the elders, their eyes wide with wonder and respect. In the Maasai community, life is a cycle of responsibilities, and each age group has its role. While the warriors protect and provide, the women ensure the continuity of life. The children listen, observe, and learn. They watch how their mothers knead dough into perfect circles, how their fathers negotiate peace with neighboring clans, how their grandfathers lead with quiet strength. Even as the youngest, they grasp the significance of each action, each word spoken or left unspoken. For them, life is more than mere existence. It's a dance, a rhythm passed down through generations, keeping their traditions alive. Their world is shaped by ancient beliefs and customs that guide their every move. As the sun climbs higher, the air grows warmer. Beneath an acacia tree, a group of women rest. They are a kaleidoscope of color, their blue and red robes vibrant against the setting sun. Beads adorn their arms and necks, each telling a story of bravery, love, or loss. One woman stands, her gaze fixed on the horizon. She is Nelody, meaning star in the Ma language. Her son, Lemoncan, meaning the brave, has gone to fetch water. It's a simple task, but the world is never without danger. In this arid land, water is life, but it can also bring death, hiding snakes and unseen dangers in its murky depths. Naledi waits, her heart a drum against her ribs. Finally, she sees her son returning. Relief washes over her. Like a bird that finds its nest after a long flight, her world feels whole again. She knows the risks her son faces daily, not just from wild animals or harsh weather, but also from the world beyond the horizon, from men who raid for cattle and captives. Her hands, gnarled with age, tighten on the beads around her neck, a silent prayer forming on her lips. Each day is a gamble with fate. Every journey into the bush is a step into the unknown. Her thoughts drift to her husband, a warrior lost to a rival clan years ago. Her fingers trace the patterns on her robe, a tangible link to her heritage. Suddenly, a shout pierces the air. Naledi whirls around, her heart pounding. Is it a cry of triumph or a war cry? Is her son among the victors or the fallen? Fear, as relentless as the sun, bakes her insides. Then another woman joins the cry, then another until the air is filled with their voices. Naledi closes her eyes, the familiar chant washing over her. It's a song of courage, a battle cry that echoes the strength of their ancestors. Slowly, she relaxes, her muscles tense. She opens her eyes, meeting the gazes of her sisters. They stand together, united, their fears momentarily forgotten. The cry rings out again, carrying with it the spirit of the Maasai, their resilience and strength. As the sun begins its slow descent, casting long shadows across the plains, the warriors return. Their bodies are weary, their faces streaked with dust, but their eyes are bright with the thrill of the hunt. They carry with them the spoils of the day, meat from the hunt and water from the watering hole. The women and children rush to greet them, their laughter echoing across the savannah. Tonight there will be a feast. The rhythm of life continues, sustained by the balance of age-old traditions. Among the returning warriors is Lemminkin. His steps are lighter, his smile wider than any other. He holds aloft a small lizard, its scales shimmering in the fading light. He is not the biggest or strongest, but his keen eye and quick reflexes have brought them a precious meal. The women and children gather around, their faces lit with pride and gratitude. This is their life, a delicate dance between risk and reward. They understand that while some days bring bountiful feasts, others may leave them empty-handed. But they face it all with the calm of those who have learned to read the signs of the land. As the night deepens, the fire crackles, casting dancing shadows on the faces around it. It's a time for stories, for the elders to share tales of bravery, of battles fought and lessons learned. The young men listen intently, their faces illuminated by the firelight, their hearts filled with admiration and a touch of fear. These stories are more than just narratives. They are a transmission of their culture, a way to ensure that their history isn't lost to the winds of change. With each story, the young men learn how their ancestors survived droughts, wars, and the changing seasons. They hear about the heroes and heroines of their past, those who displayed extraordinary courage and wisdom. One such tale is that of Neomayan, a warrior who, despite being outnumbered, managed to defend their village against a much larger enemy force. Another is that of Olarinkoi, a woman who led her people through a terrible drought, always looking for greener pastures. These stories become a part of them, shaping their understanding of what it means to be Maasai. They learn about the respect and responsibility that comes with their traditions, the importance of community and the value of courage and resilience. The fire dwindles, leaving only glowing embers. The night is still young, but the time for stories is over. A young man named Lemakuni looks up at the star-studded sky. His mind races, trying to comprehend the vastness of the universe. He thinks about his place in it, a tiny speck on a tiny planet orbiting a rather ordinary star. Yet somehow he feels connected to everything, bound by invisible threads to the heroes of old and the warriors who stood watch in the darkness before him. He is reminded of his own responsibilities, the tasks he must complete to earn his adulthood, the challenges he'll face when he leads the charge against the enemy. Looking back at the elders, their faces now softened by the firelight, he realizes that they, too, were once young warriors, eager to prove themselves under the same sky. He sees their weariness, the toll that years of battles and decisions have taken on them, and he understands the weight of their wisdom, the countless stories and experiences that have shaped their perspectives. As the night deepens, the young men retire to their shelters, their minds buzzing with stories of the past and dreams of the future. Theirs is a life of simplicity, a life closely tied to the rhythms of nature. But within that simplicity lies a depth that layman Koki is only beginning to understand. When the rains fail and the earth cracks open and the cattle cough dust instead of breath, for the Maasai drought is more than an inconvenience. It is the unraveling of life itself. The rains sustain not just the soil, but the very soul of their world. And when the rains don't come, there's no plan B, there's no backup, there's no safety net. There is only endurance. And this is a story about that endurance. This is a story about the drought. In the vast panorama of the African savanna, where the sun beats down relentlessly and the wind whispers tales of parched earth, there exists a people who have turned their backs on despair. The Maasai, renowned for their vibrant culture and intimate connection with their environment, face the drought head-on, drawing strength from their age-old traditions, rituals, and an unbreakable bond with their cattle. The dry season stretches on, testing the limits of resilience. The cracked earth, a testament to the relentless sun, mirrors the thirst etched on every Maasai's face. The once lush grasslands have withered away, replaced by a dusty expanse that stretches as far as the eye can see. The cattle, their lifeblood, grow gaunt, their eyes reflecting the hopelessness of the arid landscape. With each passing day, the herd dwindles, and the Maasai must make a heart-wrenching choice: leave their ancestral lands or face the grim prospect of starvation. Yet, even in the face of such adversity, the spirit of the Maasai refuses to be subdued. Their response to the drought is a blend of ancient wisdom and pragmatic action. The elders, repositories of traditional knowledge, play a pivotal role in guiding their communities through these harsh times. Their years of experience and deep understanding of their environment enable them to navigate the challenges posed by the drought. With a mixture of rituals, resourcefulness, and sacrifice, the Maasai strive to endure. As the drought persists, the Maasai demonstrate remarkable resourcefulness. Coping mechanisms born out of necessity and tradition become their lifeline. Women, traditionally responsible for managing resources, take on the critical task of rationing milk, stretching its supply to ensure that the youngest members of the community do not go hungry. Meanwhile, warriors, embodying the strength and courage of the Maasai men, venture farther and farther in search of water and grazing land. Facing the harsh realities of a changing environment and the ever-present danger of cattle raids, throughout this ordeal, the spirit of Ubuntu, the interconnectedness of humanity, binds the Maasai together. Mutual support and cooperation become essential as they confront the challenges of the drought. The sense of community strengthens, forging an unbreakable bond among the Maasai as they navigate through the hardships side by side. One of the most profound aspects of the Maasai response to the drought is their deep-rooted faith in Enkai, their supreme being. Religion plays a central role in their lives, providing solace and strength in times of despair. Prayers become a constant under the vast African sky, seeking divine intervention and guidance. Rituals and ceremonies are performed with renewed fervor, reaffirming their connection to their beliefs and traditions. The Maasai draw upon their spiritual convictions to endure the physical and emotional toll of the drought, finding comfort in the promise of a better tomorrow. Their rituals are deeply ingrained in their culture, passed down through generations, and they form the backbone of their response to the drought. These rituals serve multiple purposes. They are a means of communicating with Enkai, a way of seeking his favor and protection during these challenging times. The chants, dances, and offerings are a physical manifestation of their devotion, a tangible expression of their unwavering belief in the goodness of their God. But these rituals also serve as a source of unity and strength for the Maasai community. They bring the people together, reinforcing their bonds of kinship and shared faith. As they participate in these ceremonies, the Maasai feel a sense of collective purpose, drawing strength from their unity and shared traditions. The rituals become a source of hope, reminding them that they are not alone in their struggles. In the heart of the drought-stricken savanna, the Maasai demonstrate remarkable patience and endurance. They understand that the drought is a temporary phase in the cyclical nature of their environment and that it will eventually end. While the physical toll on both humans and cattle is significant, the Maasai remain steadfast in their commitment to preserving their way of life. They continue to care for their cattle, ensuring that the animals receive the attention and care they need to survive. Despite the dwindling resources, The Maasai practice selective breeding, prioritizing the health and well-being of their herds. They understand that the future of their community depends on the resilience and adaptability of their cattle. As days turn into weeks and the drought shows no signs of abating, the Maasai exhibit remarkable patience. They understand that rushing or panicking will not alter the course of nature. Instead, they rely on traditional practices and knowledge passed down through generations to guide them through this challenging period. Patience becomes a virtue that sustains them, enabling them to endure the harsh realities of the drought. But the drought does not merely test the land and the people, it tests the soul as well. It pushes the Maasai to their limits, forcing them to confront their deepest fears and uncertainties. Yet, through it all, their indomitable spirit shines through. The Maasai dig deep into their cultural reservoir, drawing strength from their history and traditions. They recall tales of their ancestors, stories of how their forefathers endured similar hardships and emerged stronger on the other side. These narratives become a source of inspiration, reminding them that they are part of a lineage of resilient survivors. By keeping these stories alive, the Maasai reaffirm their identity and find the strength to keep going. In the face of such despair, the allure of abandoning their traditional ways can be tempting. Some might question the wisdom of staying in a land where the rains have abandoned them. But for the Maasai, leaving their ancestral lands is not an option. It would be a betrayal of their heritage, a severance of the deep connection that binds them to their environment. The Maasai are not merely inhabitants of the savannah, they are an integral part of it. Their identity is intertwined with the land, and they are determined to stay and fight for their way of life. Drought, in essence, becomes a crucible for the Maasai, testing their resilience, unity, faith, and cultural tenacity. It is a harsh teacher, but one from which the Maasai emerge even stronger, more united and more determined to preserve their heritage in the face of any challenge. Let's pause here for a moment and listen to the fire crackle softly. Above us, the stars begin to pepper the darkening sky. Rest now, dream of endless plains and a people strong and unyielding. We are nearing the end of our journey, but your story is just beginning, and in the quiet moments, when the wind whispers through the tall grasses and the stars twinkle above, the Maasai find solace in their traditions. Music and storytelling become a source of comfort and entertainment, keeping the community spirits high even in the darkest of times. The rhythmic beats of traditional drums echo across the savannah, carrying with them tales of bravery, resilience, and the unwavering spirit of the Maasai people. The elders, with voices rich with experience, recount stories of their ancestors, their triumphs, and their struggles, reminding the younger generations of their heritage and the values that have sustained them through countless hardships. These moments of cultural expression not only provide a distraction from the harsh realities of the drought, but also serve as a reminder of the strength and unity that has carried the Maasai through countless challenges throughout history. The drought may test their endurance, but the Maasai stand firm, rooted in their traditions, drawing strength from their community and unwavering in their faith. Their response to the drought is a testament to the human spirit, this capacity for resilience and adaptation in the face of adversity. Their story is a reminder that even in the harshest of environments, life finds a way to endure. At the heart of the Nkang family, life beats steadily. Children run barefoot, herding goats close to the boma fences. Women move with practiced rhythm, fetching water, milking cows, repairing huts with cow dung plaster. Men return from herding with dust on their shins, resting their spears at the gate. And yet, woven into these ordinary rhythms are shadows. Lions prowl at night, their roars vibrating through the thorn walls. Raiding parties from rival groups sometimes strike, stealing cattle, and lives in a single night. Death is never far. It is carried in the crack of hyena laughter, in the sudden silence of the herd. Let's pause here for a moment. The fire crackles softly, and we rest beneath the stars. We settle down on the soft earth, our bodies heavy with the day's journey. The endless expanse of the night sky stretches above us, a blanket of stars so close they feel within reach. The Milky Way, a river of light, flows across the heavens, and the Southern Cross, a constant in this timeless realm, guides our gaze. The fire dances before us, its flames reaching towards the darkness as if seeking the stars. In its flickering light, the faces of my companions come alive, etched with the stories of their lives, their eyes reflecting the wisdom gained under this very sky. The warmth of the fire seeps into my bones, chasing away the chill of the night. And as the embers glow, I find solace in the silence, a symphony of crickets and the distant call of a lone night bird. The gentle breeze whispers secrets through the tall grasses, and the scent of wood smoke mingles with the earthy aroma of the savanna. For countless generations, the Maasai have navigated this vast canvas of night, reading its silent language, finding comfort in its familiar patterns. They tell stories around such fires, tales passed down through ages, each word a thread weaving the rich tapestry of their heritage. The elders, with voices deep and resonant, become storytellers and historians, keeping the past alive in the present. Their words paint vivid pictures of heroic ancestors, their bravery echoing in the crackling flames. They speak of ancient traditions, of life in harmony with nature, and of the profound connection to this land that has sustained them for millennia. The younger ones, wide-eyed and eager, listen intently, absorbing the lessons and values embedded in these narratives. Each story is a seed planted in their minds, taking root and growing, shaping their understanding of the world and their place within it. It's a powerful moment, this coming together of generations, bound by the warmth of the fire and the magic of storytelling. It's a reminder of the strength that comes from shared history and the importance of preserving one's cultural heritage. As the night deepens and the fire burns low, I feel a sense of connection not only to the Maasai people, but to all those who have gathered around fires in the darkness of night, seeking solace, wisdom, and a deeper understanding of their place in the grand tapestry of existence. In the stillness that follows, I find myself reflecting on the resilience and adaptability of the human spirit. These stories, born in the heart of the African savanna, resonate with universal themes that transcend time and place. They speak of love and loss, courage and perseverance, and the eternal search for meaning in a world that is ever-changing. The Maasai people, with their deep connection to their cultural roots, embody the power of tradition to shape identity and provide a sense of continuity in an ever-changing world. Their stories are a testament to the strength and wisdom that can be found in preserving one's heritage. As the night deepens and the stars continue their silent vigil, I am filled with a renewed appreciation for the power of storytelling and the enduring spirit of the Maasai people. I hope you enjoyed this moment of reflection. Please let me know what thoughts or memories the scene evoked for you. And remember, there's more to come. Stay tuned for the next part of the story. And now, let us return to the story. My thanks to my supporters for making moments like this possible. And so, family life also means preparing for the inevitable. The transitions of age, the passing of elders, the journey into ancestral-hood. Funerals are rare and simple, for cattle must live, and the circle must continue. But the stories of the departed are spoken often, folded into firelight tales, so that children inherit not only cattle, but memory. And, as the sun climbs higher, the warrior leans back, his eyes half closed, listening to the elder. Words like carefully aimed spears fly, landing with soft thuds in the spaces between breaths. He speaks of a time when lions still roamed in greater numbers, of battles fought and cattle won, of rites of passage endured, and of the wisdom gained in years spent walking between worlds. One day, the warrior will trade his shield for an elder's staff, his spear for a walking stick. His new prey will be birds, whose feathers will adorn his hat instead of lion's mane. His greatest victory will be a bountiful harvest, his fiercest battle, a calm within the storm. For now, though he listens, his brow furrowed in concentration, committing each word to memory. Someday soon, these words will be his to pass on, his experience to guide young warriors eager to learn. Meanwhile, the old man's eyes drift towards the southern horizon, where the sand meets the sky. He sees the fiery chariot of the sun sinking towards the western hills, marking the end of another day. It's a daily reminder of the brevity of life, the preciousness of each moment. His gaze lingers on the youthful face of the warrior, seeing not just a student, but a future leader, a keeper of traditions that have echoed for generations. When the sun dips below the horizon and the sky turns to hues of orange and purple, the warrior rises, stretching his muscles, readying himself for the evening's chores. He knows that the cycle of life continues, and there's work to be done. His responsibilities are many, from tending to the cattle to protecting his family, each task a step towards his own story becoming part of the tapestry of his people's history. As the firelight dances around them, the elder and the warrior stand in companionable silence for a while, each lost in thought. Between them, the fire crackles, its warmth spreading out into the gathering darkness, a silent witness to their shared past and the stories that bind them together. And so, life within the Nkang is never just survival. It is a dance of danger and devotion, of laughter beside fear, of endings that fold gently into beginnings. Under the endless skies of the plains, the Maasai live, knowing that each dawn is both a gift and a test. Beneath a canopy of stars, the ancient tales of the Maasai come alive. And now, as the night drapes its velvet cloak across the plains, I find myself at the edge of a storybook, ready to turn the final page. Earlier tonight, we walked alongside young Kiko as he tended to his father's cattle. The rising sun painting the sky with the colors of courage and the responsibilities of a warrior's son. We sat by the crackling campfire, sharing stories and laughter with the Maasai warriors. Each wrinkle on their faces a testament to a life well lived, each scar telling tales of bravery and resilience. We spent time with Laban Lenana, whose wisdom echoed the ancient beliefs of the Maasai. He spoke of a world where the spirits of nature and humanity intertwined, where every rock monolith bore witness to the passage of time, and every river sang songs of ancestors long gone. His words painted pictures of a past so vivid it felt like a tapestry woven with moonlight and memories. And then we ventured into the sacred enclosure, the Nkong, where the ornately decorated Monyata stood as a symbol of the Maasai way of life. Within its protective embrace, we learned of rituals and ceremonies that had echoed through generations, each step resonating with the heartbeat of tradition. The ornately carved wooden doors seemed to whisper secrets of a bygone era, inviting us to become part of a legacy that spanned centuries. Most recently, we sat in the presence of the elders, the keepers of the Maasai flame. Their voices, though aged, carried the strength of generations, their eyes twinkling with the wisdom of countless seasons. They spoke of a life deeply connected to the land, a land they revered as a living entity, a source of sustenance and a home to their ancestral spirits. They taught us about the respect and reciprocity that defined their relationship with the earth, a bond that ensured the land's fertility and their own survival. Now, as the night deepens, the voices of the Maasai soften into silence. The herds settle, the fires dim, and the vast plains stretch outward, endless beneath the stars. What we have walked through tonight, the burdens of a young herd boy, the wisdom of Laban Lanana, the secrets of the end, and the power of the elders, is more than history. It is a rhythm, a way of life still pulsing beneath the wide African sky. The Maasai teach us that every step is both survival and ceremony. A spear is more than a weapon. It is a promise. A hut is more than shelter. It is a circle of belonging. And age is not simply decline, but ascent into wisdom, where words become as sharp and guiding as spears once were. Let's pause here for a moment. The fire crackles softly, and we rest beneath the stars. The melodies of the night, the gentle murmur of crickets, and the distant call of an owl become our lullaby. The Milky Way stretches across the heavens like a river of stars, guiding us through the vastness of the night. In this timeless expanse, we find solace in the simple rhythm of existence, the same rhythm that has cradled the Maasai for generations. The night is our blanket, the firelight dances in our eyes, and the whispers of the wind weave tales of courage, resilience, and the enduring spirit of the human heart. As the night deepens, my soul feels the comforting pull of the earth beneath my feet and the boundless sky above. So let the winds of the plains carry these stories into your dreams. Rest now, knowing that under skies that never end, the Maasai still walk, still herd, still guard the rhythm of life. Sleep well, dream with the wild hearts of the warriors, the patient wisdom of the elders, and the untamed spirit of the land itself. When morning light paints the horizon, we will wake to a new day, a new story. But for now, let the tranquility of the plains wrap around you like a prayer for peace, a prayer for understanding, a prayer for a world where the ancient wisdom of the Maasai echoes in every heart. You are now under baobab skies,